Welcome back to the channel, and today we have 12 high performance pocket knives that won't cost you a fortune. Well, I test at least about 10 knives every single week, and these knives on this list are the knives that really stuck out to me and made me remember how good of a performer these were. We're going to get started first with the Vosteed Acorn. Yeah, if you can't tell, I like the Acorn a good bit. I got the satin version, the black wash version, and we gotta have the gold version. The Acorn has a nice and versatile drop point blade. You can use the tip to do tip work. It's got a nice and slicey. It has a nice thinly ground blade of 14C 28N steel. Excellent jimping up top. You can even choke up on this one. And those contoured scales feel really, really nice in the hand. Not to mention, it's not a huge knife, so it's easy one to carry. Great DDC size, deep carry, reversible pocket clip, and the performance was off the chain. Vosteed really knows how to sharpen a knife for sure. Also, throw in with the regular size Acorn, the mini Acorn, another excellent performer, one that I've been enjoying way more than I ever expected to. If any of the knives we discussed today interest you, I'll have every one of them linked down in the description. There'll probably be affiliate links, so if you want to help support what I do here in this channel, helps me pay for my testing materials. Awesome. If not, no big deal. Number 2 is the Kizer Mini Grouper. I did not even expect to like this one because I don't love the G10 carbon fiber laminate. However, there is one with just a textured G10 scale. This one has a very versatile drop point. It's got a nice low tip. This one's very easy to use, that tip. And this one's ground nice and thin because you got a nice tall broad blade. This one's in Nitro V stainless steel, and I've tested a good bit of Kizer's Nitro V already, and I love it, especially after I sharpen it, man. And that's how this one was. It performed great when I was doing testing with it, but after I sharpened it, wow, the performance jumped up dramatically. This one has a very fidgety top liner lock. I absolutely love it. You got thumb studs and a flipper tab on it, so dual deployments, both of them work outstanding, and you have a tip up, deep carry, reversible pocket clip, and a very comfortable handle. Number 3, I could not do a list like this and not put this one on it. So this is the Civivi Qubit. This one absolutely blew me away whenever I first reviewed it. Not to mention, it's super lightweight because these are aluminum scales with no liners inside. And then you have a very low tip drop point. That's going to be a theme with a lot of these knives. Full flat grind, nice thin blade stock. This thing slices and dices like nobody's business. Can't wait to test out the Kizer Pop. But yeah, this one stood out over all the knives I tested that week and has been a staple in my cardboard destroyer or knife that I want to grab just because it's an easy one. I know it's going to perform. I know it's going to be easy to carry. It's comfortable. Yeah, there's a lot to love with the Civivi Qubit. Number 4, we have the Sencut Hyrax. This right here is my number 1 pick this year for the cheapest, best performer. Let's just say that. These come in at $39. I think it's a good looking knife. You can get it all blacked out as well. You don't have to get it with the green and ivory G10 underneath. This one has a double hollow ground. You have a hollow ground swedge and a deep hollow ground blade. Beautiful needle tip to do drag cuts, piercing. And this thing slices and dices like nobody's business. Now, this one isn't going to hold an edge as good as a Qubit, but the 9CR does an excellent job, especially at this price point. I have no issues with it whatsoever. Excellent dual deploying knife, very comfortable knife, deep carry reversible pocket clip, solid liner lock, smooth and snappy action. This is an outstanding knife. If you're looking for a knife that won't break the bank, that performs outstanding, this is the one I would probably tell you to get. Number 5, we have the Civivi Tacticorix. I reviewed this one recently. I think this is one of the last Civivi reviews I did, if I remember correctly. Another one that just wowed me. It has a clip point, not usually my type of blade shape, but this is a straight clip that's nice and low, so you can still easily use the tip. Piercing is going to be great. Once again, Civivi nailed it with this deep hollow grind. This thing is nice and thin, nice and slicey, 14C 28N blade. It's a nice full-size knife. The blade is about 3 3/4 inches long, so a nice larger EDC knife that's not super heavy. And the dual deployment on this one is outstanding. And I really like this shred G10 that they do. It almost looks like a marble texture, and it kind of feels like a paper micarta. Just an overall excellent knife that kind of caught me off guard. And I have been using this one quite a bit since I've gotten it. I've already sharpened it twice. That's how much I've used it. Number 6, I still remember whenever I tested this thinking, wow. And that is the Trivisa Columba. This one is deceivingly lightweight. I have the micarta variant. They must do a sandblast or something on their micarta. This is very grippy micarta, but not uncomfortable. It's got partial liners in there that are skeletonized, making this thing a featherweight, especially for, once again, having a 3 3/4 inch blade there. A nice full flat grind. Comes down nice and thin. 14C 28 inch steel. Yeah, Trivisa's performance, you know, I've had some that perform just outstanding like this one. Some of them are just okay just because they're not the thinnest ground. This one, however, it's got excellent flipping action, and you have the blade window that you can reverse flick. And if you don't like coated blades, they got you covered. I think it's a satin blade with brown G10, and that's the cheapest variant. The micarta one comes in at $52, but the G10 and satin blade comes in at $49. Number 7 is one I've been raving about since I've got my first one, and that is the Vosteed Raccoon. Now, I prefer the crossbar lock one and the top liner lock one. Those are my two that I go back and forth between. I think I carry this one a little bit more because I love the textured aluminum scales. And this particular one is in Nitro V stainless steel, and this one's in 14C. Both of them are so similar, especially the way they're heat treated. I couldn't tell you the difference, and I don't think they're trying to sell this one as like an upgraded steel or anything. They perform so similar that if you swap the blades out, I wouldn't notice at all. I love the top liner lock for how lightweight it is and how excellent that action is. And I love the action on this crossbar lock as well. Both of them are nice, sturdy, strong locks, and they both keep your fingers out of the blade path when closing. Love this blade shape, and it comes ridiculously sharp. Vosteed sends their knives out. I would have to say they're definitely in the top 3 sharpest knives out of box I've ever gotten. I've had, I don't know if it was a Raccoon or a Nightshade, but one of them will whittle the hair, and you don't hardly ever see that with a production knife. Number 8, we had the CJRB large Pyrite, and I like big knives like this that carry like much smaller knives. I did a short on that yesterday. This one isn't ginormous or anything. It's under 9 inches overall. It's got about a 3 3/4 inch blade, but it's nice and slim, super lightweight. And this grind comes down nice and thin. The RPM 9 holds a good edge. Stupid smooth, snappy, comfortable. Yeah, there's a lot to love with this one. Number 9 is an OG from this list. I think the oldest on this list that I continue to grab and grab and grab. I own 2 of these, and that is number 9, the Civivi Elementum button lock. And this isn't really a button lock per se. This is more of like a top liner lock. You have the button right there, and you still have like a button lock nub there, but that is hooked to an actual liner that pushes that thing over. So it's interesting the way this one works. And this is kind of, I guess you could consider it a gravity knife. It's got to be gravity opened. You push the button and you just let gravity do the work. At first I was like, I hate that. And of course I've always wished they did one that just opened normal without the way this one's set up. But I've grown super fond of this one. It's in 14C. I love, this is one of my favorite blade shapes. You got a nice deep hollow grind on this one. It's a nice streamlined design, nice and lightweight design. It's got a deep carry reversible pocket clip, stupid smooth action. And I've sharpened this one probably 4 times now. And that's saying a lot because I rotate from a lot of knives since I'm a knife reviewer. I mean, it's just hard for me to carry the stuff I really enjoy. This one is not always carried, but it sits on my nightstand, and I have another one in G10 that sits in our living room. We got a little tray in our living room, and it sits in there, and I grab that quite often to break down boxes or anything that needs to be cut. I think these are discontinued, so if you want one of these, you might want to buy it before they're no longer here. That's going to be sad to see this one go. This next one and the last one are both newer knives, and I was very impressed after finishing the testing on these two. Number 10, we have the new Petrified Fish Tunny. Yeah, this one was very impressive. It's a nice full-size knife. It has a 3.86 inch versatile drop point blade, high flat grind that comes down nice and thin, 14C 28 inch steel, very comfortable hand feeling scales. I have like the bone micarta and nice, very, very grippy texture on those. They're nice and comfortable. You have fullers on both sides. The action, just redonkulous. You got a flipper, and you have the fullers that you can reverse flick. And that kind of saved this one for me because whenever they're just flipper only, I tend not to carry them as much. I like my knives that I can thumb deploy or reverse flick. I like versatility in my knives, and this one definitely has it. Now, this one is tip up, right hand carry only. That's its only drawback for the lefties out there. It performed great, and one thing I will say about petrified fish knives, I've tested quite a few petrified fish knives, and they all perform really good. I think the original Beluga that I tested, that one kind of blew me away by how well it performed. But I did notice that pretty much all of them, after I sharpen them the first, second, and third time the performance jumps up dramatically. This one performed really well, but after I finished the testing, I sharpened this one up, and I did some more testing with it, and it wowed me, especially for a $50 to $53 knife. The G10 one's $50, I think, and these micarta ones are $53. So yeah, definitely love the Tunny. Excellent new budget option, and quite possibly my favorite petrified fish knife right now. Time will have to tell that, but man, it's a good one. And look, they even got the sharpening trawl pretty darn good. You can sharpen all the way to where my fingernail is. That's where it looks like that plunge line comes down. And I've already sharpened it once, so you should have, I think, 4 or 5, maybe even 6 sharpenings, depending on if you reprofile or not. Number 11 seems like a more expensive knife to me for some reason, and that is the Civivi Exone. This is the Brian Brown collaboration. I think it's an attractive looking knife. I don't love the lime green on the liners, but I do like the cream G10. It doesn't get dirty like just straight white does. But this one has an excellent utility blade shape, excellent for breaking out boxes. Doing drag cuts is where this one really shines, because it has, look at that, beautiful deep hollow grind on this one. Very, very slicey. And boy, this one, I sharpened it up after the review, and this one just is a slicing powerhouse. Now, it is a more compact design. If you have large, extra large hands, this one probably be a little small for you, because look, that's where that stops right there, and I can get a 4-finger grip on it. I don't love the jimping on it either. It's a little uncomfortable for me, but I just overshoot it, or I'm usually in the hammer grip or the pinch grip doing those drag cuts. Nitro V reverse Tonto blade on this one. You got a reversible deep carry pocket clip. Excellent action, and you can easily use those fullers to reverse flick. And that flipper, of course, works great as well. Now, this next one was an absolute surprise. I did not expect this one at all, and I don't even think y'all have seen this knife yet on the channel. I've had it for about 2 weeks now, I think it's been. So number 12, we have one coming from Hot Knives. This is the Hightron. This is another Amazon knife pickup, and I don't even think I ordered the donut one, unless my daughter was by me, then she might have asked me to order this one. But if this isn't your thing, I don't care either way, but I don't think I would have ordered this one. They do have a carbon fiber G10 laminate one. They all have black blades, unfortunately. I know some people hate that. And then they have one, I forget, I think it might be green micarta maybe, with a black blade. This knife is ridiculously lightweight, and they did that because it's solid G10. And you see where these 2 screws are? They have a small little plate that goes around here that stops where those 2 screws are. So it's pretty much a linerless knife. Deep carry pocket clip. They countersunk the screws, didn't countersink the clip. Now it's tip up right hand carry only, and that's a bummer since this is a crossbar lock. The action, thumb stud action, excellent. Look at this. Woo-hoo, yeah. Reverse flick off that blade hole, or you can reverse flick off the thumb stud. You can also use the crossbar lock. It's riding on ceramic bearings. So I got it out and I was like, okay, cool. It's super lightweight. It has a little bit higher tip than I would have really wanted to, but I can still kind of use the tip. I don't have to come way up here, being that it gets real fine and acute up there at the front. You could also just use that belly. That's usually what I do with these. The ergos, even though it's a slim knife, these two, my fingers fit perfect right there, and that flare fits great. And look at this. Beautiful sharpening choil. You're going to be able to sharpen almost an eighth, or let's see. Where my fingernail is, you'll be able to sharpen all the way down to there before it'll start flaring out. That is outstanding. Well, that's all good, but we're talking about performance here. The coating held up well, and the reason why this one performed as excellently as it did is, first, it came with a ridiculously sharp edge. Not to mention the blade stock thickness. Look how thin. That blade stock thickness, I think, is like 0.08 something. Very, very thin. So if you're looking for a very slicey blade, Then it's a full flat grind that comes down to around 13 thousandths. I think, if I remember correctly, I think it's 13 thousandths behind the edge. And this one is in 14C 28-inch steel. So check, 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 and check. Beautiful action. It's a fidgety knife. I've actually carried this for the last 3 days as my beater knife. And talk about a good beater. They go for, I think they're around $58 if I remember correctly. And do I think it's worth that? Yeah, if you're looking for an excellent performer. Well, here's another shot of all the knives. Let me know down in the comments. Do you have any knives that stuck out to you on how awesome they performed? I love seeing that, and if I don't have the knife, I will definitely probably buy it because I love a good performer, especially these budget ones as nice budget beaters. Like I said earlier in the video, if any of these interest you, they will all be linked down in the description. I hope every one of y'all is having an absolute amazing Saturday, and I will see y'all on the next one.